All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and go over the first day of 1.7, section 1.7, which is all on solving absolute value equations. So you should remember absolute value from 6th grade and 7th grade. Okay, absolute value is always positive. All right, and so today we're going to kind of review a little bit about absolute value. So you might say, think about this. What is the absolute value of -4? Well, we know the absolute value of -4 is 4. Distance is always positive. What is the absolute value of 4? Well, that's also 4. So do you notice anything? Well, yeah, there's two answers that could be 4 for this. So whenever you have to solve any absolute value situations, you will always seek out two solutions. Okay? So you're going to see, again, there's absolute value of -4 is 4, absolute value of 4 is 4. So when we walk through this, there's a few things I want you guys to keep in mind. The first thing I would like for you guys to write down today, okay, is that our first step for this is to always isolate the absolute value. Okay, our goal is to work on getting that absolute value by itself on the equation. Okay, you will always have, you're going to put a star by this, two answers. All right, so we're going to cover this for 2 days. Today's just day 1. Tomorrow's day 2. We're going to go ahead and go over some of these. So let's chat. This first one, it says, we need to subtract 1. We're going to solve this just like we typically would with an equation, right? Subtract 1 both sides. Our goal is to get this part isolated by itself. So 16 minus 1 is 15. Yes, you need to copy all of this down. We're going to divide this by 3 because we're trying to isolate the absolute value. So now we have x minus 12 is equal to 5. Okay, we're going to have two situations. So you might be saying, well, Ms. Swiderski, I already know the answer. Because of this, I know 17 minus 12 is 5. Great, yes, that's one solution, but let's talk about the other solution. So because of this, we have two cases. We could have x minus 12 is equal to 5, all right? Yes, we know that's going to be 17, and we'll solve it here in a minute. Or x minus 12 is equal to -5. Because up here, we said that the absolute value of -4 is 4. We have to make sure we're taking both of these into consideration. So let's go ahead. We know we add 12 both sides. 17 is equal to x. Great. What about this one? Well, I'm going to add 12 both sides. Okay, we get 7 equals x. All right, so we have two answers. Well, Ms. Swiderski, how do I write these? Okay, you could say, well, x equals 7 or x equals 17 to make this statement true. Or we can say 17 comma 7. That will work as well. All right, let's go ahead and try number 2. First step, isolate that variable. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I am going to subtract 5 from both sides. Now we have negative absolute value of 2x is equal to -16. I'm going to divide all of this by -1, so I have that 2x by itself. 2x is equal to 16. Because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. All right, now we've got to do our two situations. Situation 1, 2x could equal positive 16. Or because of absolute value, we know 2x could also equal -16. Because again, up here, the absolute value of -4 was 4. The absolute value of 4 is 4. So we're saying down here that, hey, there could be two situations that would make this statement true. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 2 here. We know x equals 8. Or divide by 2 here, x could equal -8 to make this situation true. All right, we can leave this as our answer and circle them and put and, right? Or you can do one of these doodads, 8, -8, both would work. All right, so isolating the variable, then we're going to say it could be positive or negative because we talked up here about how there's two answers for the absolute value of 4. It could be -4 or 4 would give you the absolute value of 4, right? Down here, let's go ahead and start this one. I'm going to subtract 4, both sides. by, you get 6 is equal to, we're going to bring all of this down, divide by 2. All right. 10 minus 4 is 6. Oh, you know what? We're dividing by negative 2. All right. So I get x minus 3 is equal to negative 3 in the absolute value bars. Where you're going to remember up here, the absolute value is always, 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 always positive. All right. Yes, we could have the absolute value of negative 3 is 3, right? We know that, but we're never going to have the absolute value of some number is equal to negative 3. We never, 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 never have absolute value being a negative. So for this one, it's no solution. Because you can't have an absolute value of something and make it a negative number. Distance is always positive. So be careful for those. They're going to try and trick you. No solution is only when you're trying to find the absolute value of a number and they're saying it's a negative. Yes, you could solve, right, like we did up here and get x is equal to a negative, but absolute value will never be negative. All right, let's move on. I'm going to have you guys do number 4 on your own. It is completely okay to have fractions, decimals, improper fractions for your solutions for these. Down below, let's try this one. All right, for this one, I'm going to go ahead and make this into a proportion. All right, so when I multiply this, 4 times 3 will give me 12. We're left with 2x plus 1 in the absolute value brackets. All right, so for this one, ooh, that's a big bracket, sorry. We have 2 situations, right? We can have 2x plus 1 equals 12, or I could have 2x minus 1 equals negative 12. Go ahead and solve, subtract 1. All right, divide by 2. We know x could equal positive 11 halves. Down here, situation 2, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Let's see here. Equals 11 equals 2x, divide by 2, or x could equal negative 11 halves. So I'm going to go ahead and write my answers. See, I added 1 to both sides. Oh, you know what? That's what I did wrong here. I should subtract 1. I'm sure many of you are seeing that. Subtract 1. So this would actually be negative 13 halves. All right, so our answers are 11 halves or negative 13 halves. All right. Let's go ahead and try number 6. For number 6, when I look at this one, I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Isolating that bracket is my goal. Divide by 2 both sides, so now we have 3x minus 5 is equal to 6 in the absolute value bars. Okay, for this, we have our 2 situations. I could have 3x minus 5 equals 6, just like this is written here. Or 3x minus 5 equals negative 6. Ooh, big negative sign, sorry. Add 5 both sides. Negative 6 plus 5 is going to give me negative 1. 3x equals negative 1, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3. X equals negative 1/3. Or, up here I can add 5 both sides. We get 12, 11 equals 3x. Divide by 3, divide by 3. I'm going to leave these as improper fractions today. All right, so 2 situations I could have, 2 solutions. X could equal negative 1/3 or 11/3. Okay, so 2 main things I want you guys to keep in mind for this. You're always going to have 2 solutions. Show your work. As you know, your goal is to isolate the absolute value bars. Or the absolute value brackets. Then always keep an eye on problems like number 3. You can't take the absolute value of a negative number, so there's no solution for that one. This is our first day of Notes for 1.7. Good job.